Hello everyone and welcome to a new video series with me, Umber Rays, and this new video series is called Trial and Error. A video series that is all about taking on trials that are not necessarily something that I have optimized for. I've thought a long time about how I wanted to do trial videos because there are plenty of people who do explanation videos as well as complete video guides, and I thought it would be kind of interesting to do something that is based on mistakes, giving a trial a shot necessarily without having the perfect solution and the answers to it, and people being able to learn off of it, which I thought was kind of a unique and a little bit different take on it. Now, unfortunately, when it comes to this one, I accidentally beat it last night in doing some early testing on it. So the video series is off to a great start already. So let's talk about the FFBE trial that has just came out. This is a new series or a new feature to the JP side that is basically you being able to take on final bosses of different series. Last month we saw X-Death, which is one that I will be doing a video series on eventually. But this one is for the Final Fantasy Brave Exvius characters, particularly Season 2 characters. Now, bringing certain characters along, such as CG Nickel, CG Lid, or heck, Chocobo Fina here, gives new ability, or gives, special boosts to their stats in the fights. Basically gives you incentives to using older characters, which is something I think is really cool. Nickel in this fight is particularly well suited, as well as CG Lid, since you will need both buffing and debuffing of the enemy, as well as elemental resistance. So let's talk a little bit about what is important for this trial. First of all, being able to, one of the major goals that you should be necessarily looking to do if you ever plan on doing this is beating this trial within 20 turns. The main reason is one of the challenges is to specifically beat the boss within 20 turns to get the new abilities for special units. So again, the units that get bonuses in this are also the units that get special abilities. As you can see, Lid has a couple of new abilities that have been unlocked from the trial, as well as Chocobo Fina, as well as Nickel. Nickel's being one of the better ones that gives basically stop protection, stop curing, I do believe, as well as 50% damage mitigation for 3 turns. Pretty amazing, to say the least. So these cooldown, or these abilities are all absolutely worth it. So again, we should talk about what is super important for this trial, or what I've found to be super important to this trial. First of all, physical tank. You need someone to provoke and take a lot of the damage that is being dished out. But the other really important thing to make sure is to gear all members of your party for the elements that are very key in this fight. First of all, and should always be your first priority, is getting dark resistance up to at least 100%. This is an enemy that deals a lot of dark damage, so this is the scariest element to come up against. So you definitely want that dark resistance for sure. If you have Primrose, you might be able to, go for a lower dark resistance on your party members and just use Primrose to provide enough dark protection. But I wouldn't necessarily risk it, so I would rather just have the dark resistance, period. Especially because Nickel gets such a big bonus and has, if you have enhanced him, 100% water protection that he can give to the entire party for multiple turns. It's much easier to focus on gearing for dark protection, and then you want about 50% water protection too. This boss also does water damage, but it is not as scary, especially if you have CG Nickel 7-star and enhanced with his water protection. It should be noted that some people have gotten through this trial just with 6-star buffers, particularly Erisha is the one that comes to mind. So yes, it is fully possible, but you'll want a tank with a fair amount of HP, defense as well as dark resistance too. So you can see how I've geared it with the Marlboro shield for elemental or for status protection. Isn't super useful in this fight, mainly because the boss has ways of still casting status effects, and that can ruin your day. But trying to protect, more than anything, I just want this for the water protection. The rest of Seghart's gear basically is all built around elemental protection and as much defense, HP, spirit as I can potentially get on him to make him survivable. Next up, Lid. Again, this is a unit that I've mostly geared. As it turns out, I forgot to equip a hammer the first time I went into the fight. Probably want to be a little bit careful about that. We'll just throw this hammer on so we can get some extra stats, because, you know, Lid is like that. And we'll also throw, I don't know, I want to say status protection, maybe? Would be a good thing to have. Sure. As you can see, I've geared her for mostly enough dark resistance and enough water resistance. She'll take a little bit of damage at 95%, but not enough to be super scary. Plus, her stats get such a big boost that there really isn't much to fear here. Now, Chocobo Fina, she is our main damage dealer for this fight, so you want as much spirited. Now, it's talking about DPS for a second in this fight. DPS, of course, you want your elemental protection on them and then just as high attack stats as you can potentially get. The reason I like Chocobo Fina, and yes, I do realize she's not available yet, but either for in the future, and I have a DPS note to talk about her. Just her high spirit makes her really survivable. The bonus stats also are super nice here, so... and even with her triple casting, the amount of MP she gets in this fight, she needs no MP support whatsoever. This is going to be a long one, so yeah, we'll just go into it. But yeah, gearing for elemental protection is super important here, as well as whoever your attacker is going to be, make sure they have as much demon killer as you can potentially put on them. Excuse me, my voice is dying already. So getting into this fight, demon killer is super important. Putting Diablos on your whoever your DPS is going to be really, really big because of the killers that he has. This is a demon/human, so at least that's the way I've heard it being described as for the enemy. So as much demon and human killer as you can stack, because you want to hit under those 20 turns so that you can get those cool new abilities. And we'll talk about DPS a little more into the fight. I'm also bringing a friend Chocobo Fina because I have one of those on my friend list. Now, as for the DPS note, this fight has been done already by others with many, many options. Axstar, CG Lightning, Barts, they are all, or CG Barts, they are all great in this fight. Unfortunately, Reagan doesn't get in there, and Laswell, you could potentially do it, but if you're trying to get under those 20 turns, you're probably going to want one of the more top-tier DPSs and get a friend to basically equip. Also, for anyone out there on my friends list, Chocobo Fina is a great chaining partner, providing you can put the Holy Element on your attacker, as well as, of course, Demon Killer, the Elemental Protection, and so long as they are an AT chainer with a Holy Element or Wind Element, you'll be just fine with my girl. Again, I think I've already explained this, but the reason that we're bringing this guy is just water protection. He can give 100% for water protection. He has also dark and light protection, which is going to be super important to keep up at all times in this trial, lest you want to die. And other than that, his general buffing as well as damage reduction is super important. That's basically all he is going to be doing in this entire fight. And as for Lenna, Lenna is just a really great healer who can provide elemental protection. She has natural water protection. She can just do a lot of things in the fight that are super nice, including protecting against stop. If this is your first time going through this fight and CG Nickel is your buffer, slash debuff, or buffer slash support, you're not going to have enough you're going to need stop protection. So that is why we are basically bringing Lenna here, because she has not only can protect against elements, or status protection, sorry, she can also protect against stop, and that's super important for later in the fight. So, now that we have explained everything, we have our team geared appropriately and everything. There's one more note to note about this fight that is super important. Turn 5s are super mega danger sometimes, depending on how much you do. And later in the fight, he does start putting up barriers. I've heard that the light, if you attack him with the light element, it's supposed to stop this barrier, but I have not found that to be so. The barriers are not super scary and can be dispelled, but the really important thing to note about this fight is how dangerous it is in the late phase. The end phase, from anything under 20%, this boss becomes incredibly dangerous. So you have to be super, super scared of it after 20%. That's the real part of this fight. So with that being said, we can drop the music, we can bring up some boss music, and let's see how this fight goes. As soon as we connect. Alright, we're into this. So, starting off, you can see that all of our stats for most of our units that we brought along is super good. There is no item restriction here, so if you are bringing Lenna along instead of CG Fina, that's kind of the only really scary thing. I'm not... the problem with bringing CG Fina is if you are going to bring her, then you have to find a way of protecting the party against stop, because that is kind of uber danger. So to start this fight, we definitely need to do elemental protection. Basically, Nicole is going to be on a 2-turn pattern. Elemental protection, followed by some kind of buffing and damage mitigation, or something that the party needs. He doesn't really get any downtime in this fight. There is no reason not to risk it. If you do not have extra dark protection, you will die horribly in this fight. Now, as for Lenna, we are going to be using her on a 2-turn pattern of using her 72 MP abilities, which basically protect us against statuses as well as stop, and that is really important. Here, we are going to start going in with our Finas, but Lid's job is very simple as well. Keep him debuffed for attack and magic. He is incredibly dangerous, and you cannot debuff this creature for... well, I guess it's a he. I'm going to label it as a he, although maybe not. But definitely you want to be making sure that this is always broken for attack and magic. You cannot break for defense and spirit, so yeah. As for our Chocobo girls, they are going to be getting in to just unlock their limit burst right from the get-go, because we want that limit burst up and running. Alright, so perfect chaining. As you can see, the boss is pretty damn tanky so far, but we'll get there. Alright, so Provoke. As for Seghart will be using a 2-turn pattern of basically protecting the enemy, or protecting us, as well as just basically AoE cover, as well as provoking the enemy. Alright, so we made it through turn 1 just fine. Now we're going to just make sure that we're getting in with Nicole here. We'll start using his giant buff, and we'll even use his new cooldown ability just because we can. So we have 50% damage reduction now. That's pretty good. And we will just get in on using some of Lenna's other abilities. Here's where we start using AoE cover, because after turn 1, that's where it kind of becomes dangerous. And now, these two girls, they're just going to limit burst so they can unlock triple casting, because that's going to be our major source of damage, and we want to start getting in on that right away. Also, I'm not entirely sure what Lid's new cooldown ability is. I haven't actually looked at that. Let's see. FFBE, database JP. because that's where I go for all of my source of information, and that's where all of you should go too. Heavenly Technician Lid. AoE 1 turn physical damage. Oh, versus machines. That's right. I forgot about that. Not going to be super useful here, as this boss is not. And as you can see, we've made it through perfectly fine. Now, as for Fina, we're going to be using our new cooldown ability, because I haven't used it yet, and I think it's going to be really, really awesome. We're going to be giving her the Holy element. This boss is naturally a little bit weak to Holy. The one thing I haven't been able to fit on this team is a Holy debuff. There probably is a materia that I can use, or you can use to use Holy debuff on this guy, so by all means, I'll show you how to do it without the Holy debuff. Alright, so here we go. This is going to give basically Fina a lot of extra power for a couple of turns, and will help us do more damage. But as for Nickel, Nickel is just stuck in a 2-loop pattern. There's been a couple of times where I have found that not having, that I just forget about elemental protection, and that's the thing that basically kills me. So here, I just fully recommend that you go, like, there's no reason not to, basically. Just keep your elemental protection on constantly, and Nickel can just be on a 2 pattern, and it's totally fine. Alright, so he's going to be trying to be super mean to us for this turn. But as you can see, we've made it out okay. Now let's go into triple casting. The great thing about Chocobo Fina in this fight is that she has just so much MP and so much MP regeneration that, well, it just doesn't really matter. And just to show off her stats, because a little bit of brag. Yeah, that's just pretty. That is just pretty. So now we're going to be dishing out a fair amount of damage. You want to be careful around turn 5. Turn 5 is kind of the uber danger turn. So yeah, here I have heard that you can use Fenrir. And Fenrir in the later part of the fight is pretty useful for just keeping your attackers buffed if you're using attacker magic. Obviously, I'm using Spirit, and Fina is more than capable of taking care of herself. But we're also going to be using Lid here just to debuff the enemy for the next 2 during the most dangerous turns of the fight. And just to scroll down, because I want to just double check here. I do believe our damage reduction is going to run out pretty quick, so just gonna, again, I've worked this out to be basically a pretty solid 2-turn pattern, where I did not have to worry about that much. So yeah, this just works pretty damn nicely. Buffing up, and here we go. We're gonna get attacked a bit. As you can see, there are some attacks that just break right through it. Kind of scary, but not overly. There is no dispel that I've seen on this boss, so you're pretty safe to just keep smacking him around a whole bunch. Meanwhile, our Chocobo Finas are just going to be dishing out as much damage as possible. The first time this fight was definitely slower. I do believe that crossing a threshold on turn 5 can be a little bit dangerous, but let's test it out. Because this is called the Trial and Error series. Oh, down to 60% already. Well, now let's just... And the real scary thing that I am always afraid of is just statuses as well as the elemental. The elemental will just flat kill your party. As for the... and we'll just use Fenrir here. The elemental will just flat kill you a lot of times, and under 20% he starts using basically status effects that you cannot prevent, at least to my experience. So that is something to be wary of. Basically around 20%. You want to get him as close to 20% as possible, and then just flat kill him. Oh, never mind. We got that free turn I wanted. Alright, because we are getting close to Chocobo Fina getting... Ah, yes. We've lost our triple casting. This was what I was kind of worried about. But we will just recast and use that. And this is something you need to be mindful of Chocobo Fina when you are going to lose your triple cast turns. Thing we're going to want is our limit burst back for both of these girls. So next turn we can limit burst with them. That is totally fine. As you can see, Nickel's new ability is just absolutely gorgeous. For anybody who's wondering, his other cooldown is going to take a while, but now he is just so much damage reduction. It is gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous. Now you can see we're running a little bit low, or we're running a little danger of him not being debuffed for attack and defense anymore, so we are just gonna stop that right away. Definitely one of his nastier attacks, but because we have the dark resistance up, we are totally fine. Now we will limit burst and get some extra damage in. Getting close to that 50% already on turn 7, so we are in good shape to finish this up. And since Lid has a turn off, this is where I'm just using an elixir regardless. Don't really need to. Well, we probably don't need to do that. Because, again, it is absolutely worth making sure that we have our elemental protection up at all times. There's no need to risk anything here. Now you can see we're handling this fight wonderfully. Our team is in great shape. Our CG Finas have their triple cast back, so now we can just go right back into it. We are running down the counter on that damage up, but if timing works out pretty well, we should be able to recast that damage up fairly quickly to about the time that we're getting close to turn 20, and then just be able to burst. So that's good news. But since everything of Chocobo Fina's is just damage, basically, we can burst through a lot here. Again, having a friend unit that is properly geared, of course, is always nice. And we have Lid's limit burst back, so let's just use that. And last turn. Now I need to remember where I was with Lenna. Still have 4 turns on the elemental, so... we'll do these, I think. Still one more turn before we can do our nice big stat buff, just to make us feel much safer. But we'll just use a slightly smaller buff. Doof, doof, doof. We'll recast the Holy Element next turn. As you can see, there's a bit of damage, but we make it out okay. And just to be a little bit more prepared, what I'm going to do, I think, is just recast the Limit Burst building one. Where is it? I can't see it. Never mind. We'll just recast the Holy Element. I'm going blind, apparently. There it is, but... Hopefully we will get close to 20%. Not quite there. Yeah, there we are. That's pretty good position to be in. And again, we're on our 2-turn cycle with Nickel. Lid really doesn't have anything to do, but we like Lid, so we're just gonna make her do that, I think. Lenna's doing fine for MP. This is a little scary for Lenna for MP, so you want to make sure that she's doing good. Alright, so this is the barrier / heal, which is rather annoying. As you can see, there now he starts dishing out some more damage. It's definitely scarier. He also gets a bit of a heal, but we make it through okay. Now this is where I'm actually just going to use our limit burst building. We want to kind of get him close to 20%. We don't want to push him below 20%. That could be very, very dangerous. So, which order did I do it in? Probably the wrong order. You guys watching will be seeing it, but it's for me. Holy limit. And I'm going to redo it again, because I'm paranoid at this point in the fight. Get him. Alright, we got rid of his barrier. That's pretty good. And if forever you're unsure, again, elemental protection is the most important part of this fight. So let's make sure that our damage reduction is up. And for the next part, since we're going to be trying to push a whole bunch of damage quickly, and this is where it starts getting more dangerous, we want to just make sure that he is constantly debuffed. And we are under extreme protection. Extreme! I think I figured out what's going to be the next big thing for healers. Okay, he gets a bit of a heal, but this is beneficial to us because now we can use our CG limit burst and get ready for triple casting the next turn. Still 2 turns before we can do that, but big thing here is just getting him a little bit lower. Yeah, keeping him around that 25%. Again, elemental protection. Now, if you can, one of the other things that I was not able to do on my first time, just to talk about the... Whoop, hello, Lid. The trials. Use 3 holy attacks is super easy with Fina, and another incentive to bring her or a friends, because then you can just holy your way to victory. Limit burst to finish is the one that I have not been able to do. We are on track currently basically to get the under 20 turns, so that's fine. But you want to see if you can have some kind of damaging limit burst to finish him off. Alright. Bit of damage. Nothing too scary this turn. Again, multiples of 5 are the really scary turns. So as you can see, he's also regenerating some health. Alright, so here we are going to boost our spirit, do holy, and do some extra damage. And I will show you under 20%. I'm not super worried about not beating this trial again. Again, just make sure that, measure twice, cut once, kids. Alright, so this is going to push him below 20% and activate the danger zone. Or at least it should. Just below. Okay. As for Nickel, we still have that, so we're going to use Nickel's limit burst here. We don't necessarily need to, but we're going to. Because I did Elemental Protection last turn, so... Just to give ourselves a little bit of heals. Oh, right, he does start buffing his magic at this point. But, thankfully, with Lid, we can get rid of that and take care of our party just fine. The one danger that I found here is that he started basically casting Confuse on my tank. Ended up really kind of being horrible for me. Alright, so let's see if we can't just finish him off. We have probably what is enough damage, but we'll give it a shot, and if not, we will just reload for education purposes. For anyone tuning in, everything here is education. Okay, so we're still slightly out of range, but let's just test a different way and see if we get there. Again, this is kind of the most dangerous part of this fight. Pushing him below 20% for too many turns will start getting a lot of your party members killed. So you very want to be careful about this part of the fight. So we're going to try an alternate method and just see how much closer we get. Basically, if we don't kill him this turn, we're pretty well set to kill him the following turn. Okay, just scooch down a little bit there. Also, we're just going to check Seghart. I do believe we need Elemental. He has coverage for another 2 turns, so we're going to be a little bit greedy here. We're also going to get higher damage reduction off of this, so in theory, this is fine. This is all fine. Alright, so we're not going to be close no matter how we do this. Whoops. There we go. Bring that back up. Yes, of course I would like to retry. This will either be a fantastic death video just because of me not managing carefully. And this is where you really want to be careful about how much damage you're doing. So just do this, a couple of those, and get him really close to being dead. He will heal, which is a little unfortunate. Wait a second, do we still have the Holy Element? Yeah, we do. Of course, I just recasted it. Right, so we'll just provoke. We want to debuff the enemy. Unfortunately, we don't have our big debuff yet, so we're just going to have to use slightly smaller ones. I have an enhanced lid too. You may want to for this fight. But our elemental protection is also almost gone, so we're going to need to make sure we get that. And we will just white magic heal, and we're going to actually protect with some auto revive, because again, this is the dangerous part of the fight. The most probable characters to die that would be absolutely destructive to your party's success is your healer or whatnot. Okay, alright, this is fine. This is fine so far. Yeah, he's hitting us a whole bunch. Now, I do believe, yes, he is confused. Alright, well, what position are we in? Now this is where you have to think, because if you're trying to get the limit burst, we were basically relying on Seghart here to, you know, not have this happen to him. We're also coming up on turn 5, which is rather scary, and he has his barrier up. Now, if we wanted to, and I will show you this, We could simply push by just going Dispel. We could go Asuna and hope that we just kill him the following turn. We still have our status protection for one more turn. So if we really wanted to, we could, in theory, do this. Something like this. And just a HP heal. So as you can see, the barrier is gone. The other option we could do at this point is just charge both Fina's limit bursts. Whether or not we're going to kill him, probably we would, but let's give it a shot. So we'll use a Holy, limit. We're either going to kill him or we're going to set up. That's basically kind of it. But we could easily kill him on this turn if we wanted. So by dispelling him, of course, we have to make sure that we have him debuffed again, or he is going to cause a lot of problems for us. We're going to make sure we have that up. We cannot get our big boost yet, so we'll just have to go with a small one and hope that it is enough. As you can see, this is the danger again. Seghart did not have his provoke up, but now we are in a really pretty damn good position to kill him. Maybe. Lid's still one turn off of her debuff, which is kind of bad. Our healer did not res, which is also pretty bad. Ooh, shoot, and our triple casting is also gone. So this is the dangers of letting this fight go just far too long. But let's see how much damage we can potentially do. So basically just enough to get rid of his barrier. We're also coming up on the 20 turn limit, so we want to be careful about that. Also, thank you very much for showing part of the ANDAP screen. Also, for some reason, this is slightly oddly adjusted. Huh, that's interesting. Of course we want to retry. We want to keep retrying till we get this. So this is where we have some difficult options of what to do. Surviving another turn without a healer at this point is pretty dicey, especially with the following turn coming up. The other thing to note is whether our characters even have the holy element on them. I think they do, but yeah, it's a little scary. Almost there. So we'll put our cover up. This might just be where we die. Again, the every turn, it's a little unfortunate that Lenna was the one who was targeted there, and basically got us into a screw. Oh, never mind. There we go. Got him. Holy Element basically stopped his special ability, and now we're good to go. It doesn't seem to work all the time, but hey, we'll take what we can get. And make sure that we trigger our limit burst to might have been a little bit off time there, not quite sure. But if not, I've beaten this twice now. I'm sure I can beat it a third time. And there you go. Done in under 20 turns. That's the important thing here. Unless you're me and you were trying to get the other... Didn't get it. Timing was a little bit off. Got to be very, very careful with that. I wish that was a little bit... That's one thing about Brave XPs I don't like. But anyway, that is the most recent trial for the JP side. Again, it can be done with other DPSs. So long as your other DPSs have killers on them, you can get under the 20 turns. I've heard it's done with Axstar. I've heard it's done with Lightning. Definitely some of the MVP units are very much whoever your tank is going to be, you can substitute that out. But Nicole and Lid work really great here and are pretty self-sustaining in this fight. Also get some really nice benefits. Even not using their abilities, you just basically switch out for the lower quality abilities and you should be able to do it just fine. And I just need to go in again because I need a screenshot of this, unfortunately. So yeah, that's all for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Into the future, we'll be taking a look at other trials too. Although it's kind of disingenuous with the Axstar there. If anyone asks, I'll lie. Anyway, thanks for watching, you guys. See you next time.